I'm Dana Healy, and you're listening to Cities Speak. Welcome to another episode of City Speak. I'm really excited to introduce to you Trista Matascastillo, the Ramsey County District 3 Commissioner. She's a mother, a wife, a veteran, and a vocal advocate for issues like affordable housing, homelessness, mental health, as well as veteran services, just to name a few. Trista, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Dana. I'm happy to be here with you.
So just a little background information about your story. You joined the Navy when you were 17 years old, active duty for 16 years. What are the values that you pull from that experience that have translated to your work with Ramsey County?
I think that, I garnered a vast majority of leadership abilities, but also about taking on really hard challenges and seeing them through. It makes you have a really strong backbone, and it makes you able to endure a lot of things. And I think if anything was telling what I learned out of the military to where we are now, having just been through a year of pandemic and civil unrest and uncertainty, I felt stable and calm through the whole thing. And I really think, I said to someone early on, I've trained my whole career for moments like this. And so when things get crazy, I get calm, and I attribute that from my experience in the military.
Well, it's great to be able to translate that calmness and that level-headed decision making, very pragmatic values to be able to navigate us through this past year. Can you believe it's been a year of this?
It has been a long year indeed.
So, new to this week, your economic inclusion plan. Can you tell us a little bit about that and give us some background for our listeners?
Yeah, I'm really excited about our economic inclusion plan. And this plan is the first of its kind regionally to truly center racial equity at the heart of our idea of economic competitiveness. We are serious about the work of leading our state and creating shared prosperity. And so we went through about 18 months of data collection and community engagement and conversations with community, to really assess what are the needs in the community around housing, around jobs, and the economy, and what does that look like, and how do we address kind of the issues of disparity between communities of color and our white community, and how do we bring that to level setting. And so we have rolled out our plan. It is an action plan. It's not just an evaluation that unfortunately gets set on the shelf, but this is an action plan that we've done all this work, and now we're ready to get started, and it will guide us in how we invest in our community to make sure that we have shared prosperity for everyone, that we continue to grow in Ramsey County, we expand our tax base, and we close that wealth gap between our communities of color and our white community. So it's really exciting. It's worth a read. It's one of those plans that we also engaged with local artists. They're all three women of color who helped us design the plan. So it's beautiful to look at, as well as it has great data and information about what the plan is. So it's definitely worth the read.
So 18 months of data collection. What was some of the most surprising things that you gleaned from this process?
The one thing that I learned early on that has stuck with me through this whole process is we figured out that if there is enough affordable housing in Ramsey County, we could close that wealth gap between communities of color and our white community in one generation. In one generation. You know, Theoretically, some of my fellow commissioners have served on the board for a generation. And so I think about, like, that could be in one career, we could change that, we could close that wealth gap. And having that information and knowledge to me now says I must do that, right? It isn't an option. Knowing that it's possible, it has to be the goal. And so that's the thing that has stuck with me most. And this plan lays out how we get there.
That's really incredible because it's one generation that we can make huge impact right now.
Right.
So that's really really powerful. So let's talk a little more about affordable housing because I know that's something that you are a proponent of and you want to increase in our communities. Can you talk a little bit about some of the investments and some of the work you've done around affordable housing?
Yeah, I since leaving the military, I my first job out of the military is working for Habitat for Humanity, and really got my feet wet in this area of affordable housing, and really have pursued this area of like how incredibly important it is for every one of us. And there's a lot of people have different feelings and emotions when you hear affordable housing. But what I really want people to understand is this means it's really about housing affordability, right? Every one of us needs a safe, dignified place to live that we can afford. And what that means is that we're spending less than 30% of our total income on our housing, which would leave enough for other things like education and healthcare and data and food security, right? And so if we're spending 30% or less on housing, it makes us everything work out okay. Many of the county programs and services in our budget at the county are spent treating the symptoms of when people don't have truly affordable housing or safe, dignified housing. And so, if we think about in our economy and our business, how much we're spending to treat the symptoms of housing instability as opposed to investing in housing. And so, I'm currently chairing the Housing and Redevelopment Authority at Ramsey County. And it has been a great opportunity to say how do we do more. And in the last year we have actually been able to move from our pre budget that had been proposed to housing of over $9.5 million in investments into affordable housing in our community that has never been done before in Ramsey County. And now with this economic inclusion plan, we're actually laying out a process in which that we can do even more into the future and set a long-term way to have dedicated funding for housing. Because we know if we can meet this need, as we said, we can close the wealth gap, but we can also stabilize our entire community and reduce cost in other areas. So this, to me, this is our number one priority is housing. Others might feel differently, but it is definitely the way that I am going and the work that I'm so committed to do.
That's awesome. I can feel your excitement on this project. So that's really really great to have a champion like you to be able to push this forward. So I'd love to like talk a little bit about another project that you did. Well, you founded about 10 years ago, the Women's Veteran Initiative that works to improve the lives and well-being of women veterans through innovative programs, access to other services. Can you tell us a little bit about that founding story? And maybe you can connect it to where you are today.
Yeah. Again, when I first left the military, like many veterans, you're coming in re-engaging into civilian life and trying to find your way. And what I quickly discovered is there were not services designed for women. For the last 200 years, all of our services in the veterans community had been designed specifically for men, and women were an afterthought. And yet, women are actually the fastest growing group of veterans because women are enlisting in our military, they're serving, and they're becoming veterans. And so we had a disconnect of what was available. The other thing there, we still have gender issues in our country, and when people have stereotypes about who a veteran is. And so to think about, if you close your eyes and imagine and say, describe a veteran, 90% of people will describe a World War II veteran. And that is even after we have served in Desert Storm, in Iraq and Afghanistan, we're still thinking about what that means. And so it was really important to me to help change what that looked like and who was a veteran and what services were available. And so a group of very dedicated women veterans and supporters formed a nonprofit called the Women Veterans Initiative, and we began moving in that way. We also discovered from the community of women veterans is the need for healing and engagement looked very different than it did for men. And so we pursued multiple programs around holistic healing and wraparound services. We did advocacy with the Veterans Administration to raise and heighten the issues around women veterans and what the needs were to improve healthcare services at our VA hospital. And then to go beyond, we really wanted to recognize and honor women's service. And so we passed legislation for the first ever women veterans license plate in the state of Minnesota. And so now it's the number one requested veterans plate on cars. So if you see a women veterans license plate, that started out of the need to recognize, and it was highly controversial. It took us 4 years to pass the license plate simply because it had the word woman on it. So if you think about how we need to continue to do this work and fight for women's equality here in Minnesota and nationally, this is one of those steps. And so it taught me a lot, and it taught me where to go and how to advocate and how we can raise the voices of those that are often not recognized. And now, in my role as county commissioner, I serve on the National Association of County Commissioners Military and Veteran Policy Committee. And so we're advocating again at the federal level for resources back to our counties and how we continue to serve veterans here in Ramsey County. And I just passed a resolution at that national level around burn pits to help get resources and medical services for our veterans who have been exposed to toxic exposure to burn pits. And so, it continues in that work. And I have a heart for all veterans, but especially for my fellow women veterans who continue to fight and serve and lead in courageous ways.
That's great that you're able to take your background and be able to contextualize it and really work on the benefit of all the veterans and women veterans within Ramsey County. So, one of your other key focus areas is the improvement of road safety. Can you talk a little bit about that and what you've been doing in that area?
Yeah, this is where I get a little geeky, and love I love talking about roads and people don't really fully have an understanding of how important our transportation system and our roads play a part here in Ramsey County. And we actually are home, unfortunately, to some of the most dangerous roads in the state of Minnesota. Rice Street has been dubbed by MnDOT the most dangerous road in the entire state. And it's dangerous because of the amount of accidents that occur on Rice Street and casualties and deaths. But we have other roads similar, and partly because our roads were designed to move cars quickly, right? And big cars. And so we have many 4-lane roads throughout the county, but they're going through residential areas. And so people drive like they're on a highway through a neighborhood. At the same time, we have got people walking and biking, and we need to make those, kind of safer for everyone who's using them. And so we have been working. We did a very in-depth 4 to 3 lane conversion study that produced really great results. And so here in District 3, we've already done a 4 to 3 lane merger of Larpenteur Avenue and improved the safety. As you probably know, about 2 years ago, there were pedestrians that were killed crossing at Larpenteur. So we added pedestrian safety features, we added sidewalks, we added protected bike lanes so that people who are using the road, all users of the road, can do it safely. We also 4-3'd Maryland Avenue and McKnight and other areas across the county for the same reason, to improve, again, all user safety. And what we've discovered is it also improves our commute time because people aren't, kind of zigzagging in and out of traffic, which causes some people to slow down and some people to go faster, but overall it's disruptive. And so it creates a smoother, safer commute for our people in our cars, and much safer for pedestrians and people on bikes. We are applying this to many other 4-lane roads in Ramsey County and investing across the county in our All Abilities Transportation Plan to prioritize the most vulnerable pedestrians and bikes, and then cars, and then our goods and services. So it's really exciting. It's really great work, and it will overall improve our entire infrastructure. And it really is also about equity. If we think about who is using our roads and how they're using and how we invest, we need to make it able for those who don't have access to cars that they can also get around safely. to where they need to go for work, for goods and services, or medical appointments. And so making it user friendly for all abilities is incredibly important.
That's great. And you're making it safer, but you're also cutting down commute time. Who doesn't want a shorter commute, right?
Right, exactly, exactly.
So, is there anything else you'd like to update our residents of District 3 on or share with them at this time?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like there's such good stuff happening in District 3. We have been, speaking of roads, uh, also the last 2 years, we've been doing some hard work on the complete redesign of Rice Street and investments along the entire corridor, and the partnership with the Rice Lavender Alliance, which is a partnership between Maplewood, St. Paul, Roseville, and the county all together to invest in that corridor. And this is where we have had a community that has experienced historic disinvestment for 40 years and not a lot of changes and improvements. And we're really focusing. I'm bringing my full energy and weight and passion for improving our area in District 3, and to make sure that the resources our community so desperately needs are there. And so between the improving the Rice Lavender intersection, improving the roads, but partnering as well to invest in businesses, to do economic development in the area, as well as the complete redesign of Rice Street in the year ahead. Construction should start next year on Rice Street, so we're still in the kind of taking community engagement and input, and kind of potential plans or ideas of plans will roll out later this summer, and I'm excited to see what comes out of that, and that we're engaging with all of the community, because it is a vibrant cultural corridor that we want to celebrate the uniqueness of our community, and all the cultures of that are represented in the community, and how we can celebrate it. So there's really great work happening there. I also think it's really important for folks to engage and connect with us at the county. As we know, we're coming out of a pandemic, and we've got vaccines available for folks, but also in how we build back better and how we recover from the economic crisis and the impact it had. And there was a disproportionate impact on people who live in District 3 because of the type of work that they do. We are predominantly people of color that live in District 3, often with lower income or lower wage earning jobs. And so to really think about how we recover back together, and as we're receiving stimulus money and funds from the federal government with the American Rescue Plan, we will actually be doing a series of community engagement, to really talk about how's the best way, what is the best way to invest in our community to make sure that everyone is thriving and recovering together, and that we do it differently. We know there are systematic structures in place that weren't working for everyone. And so we have an opportunity to kind of level set and to think differently moving forward. And as we roll out our county budget process in the next year and the recovery funds, to really have the opportunity for community to be involved so that we can make those decisions together is really exciting to me.
That's great. We really appreciate your time coming out and giving us an update on District 3 to let all of our residents know what's going on and all the great work that you are doing for Ramsey County. So thank you so much, Trista. We appreciate you.
Thank you so much, Dana. It's so great to be here and so great to be part of a great podcast. I hope everyone listens to all of your series.
Thanks. To our residents at home, you've been listening to City Speak. We've been talking to Trista Matascastillo, Ramsey County Commissioner of District 3. You've been listening to City Speak. If you've enjoyed this show, please like, comment, and share on social at 9 North Media.